Hello, so Jason Gomes. I want to help you imagine your imagination so that you can make your imagination as strong as you can imagine it being and how that's possible. All right, so first of all, everything in the universe is energy. It's flowing energy, so understanding how that energy flows and how it can be optimized is the goal of this video. This is to show you an illustration of how your imagination functions. So what you've got here is you got your spinal column, which transfers all of the energy that's happening in your brain and cascades it throughout the body. You got the medulla oblongata, which actually regulates blood flow to the inner brain, and then you have an outer brain blood-brain barrier, which is regulated by the heart. So as the heart and the medulla oblongata, they create counter vortices that are separated by a small barrier, which create electromagnetic discharges similarly to in the ionosphere. So on our planet, as wind rotates and whips around itself, right? Low, cold wind, high, hot wind. It creates an electrostatic discharge that's extremely powerful, which we refer to as lightning. So your lightning, the thoughts entering your body, enter through a network of fatty tissues, like little orbital cells of fat, which are lined with neurons. Now, everything in reality is actually being aligned according to sacred geometry. Sacred geometry is actually defined by specific ratios and patterns, which can be shown by overlapping spheres. So as all this energy is filtered in and hitting this neuron pattern, it's actually firing the neurons in relation to what you're actually looking at. So it's a big pattern being compressed down to an identical network, right? But at a much smaller level. So it's at a much, much higher density. So essentially, back here is all the stored patterns. So as all the stored patterns feed into your and reflect through your ocular nerve, you create a projection in the forebrain, the neocortex, that allows you to imagine. So you're taking in shapes and light, you're using these stored shapes and light, and you're creating a picture of shapes and light. And it's all in the brain. It's all these types of materials, right, that are, it's absorbing, condensing it down into a singularity, and then it's expanding it, and it's also storing it. So on the back side, it's an ocular nerve, and on the front side, it's like a cone. So it's just like a like your little crystal ball in your head, if you will. So if you wanted to think about this in another term, you could think of your ear as an auditory dimension of understanding, and your pineal gland as a hyperdimensional or light sensory organ. So it vibrates with light according to the specific patterns of nature. So this is all based on phi and Fibonacci and the Platonic solids. So if you study sacred geometry and you understand the Platonic solids, you understand the Metatron's cube and how all the different shapes arise out of linear points of spheres and lines. That's really where this all comes into play. So the idea is electricity is being absorbed down into your brain, and rather than lightning hitting the surface of the planet and then going into the core of the earth, where it is positively discharged, right? It's continuously swirling positive energy, continuously sucking in electromagnetic negative energy or electrons. So your heart is absorbing all that energy that's being pumped in through your brain. That's why your heart experiences physically thoughts and sensations as you shift the energies that are moving through the brain. So if you want to focus on this by coming to a complete point of relaxation, focusing on the energy moving through the spine and resting all other points of the body, and disconnecting the mind from the act of managing the body, and allowing the mind to come to a state of ease. By doing that, it helps the fatty tissues or the neurons realign with their natural and harmonious structures that they would have based on phi, Fibonacci, and the natural harmonies of the universe. So just by sitting and actually closing your eyes and practicing visualizing objects, colors, places, is a great way to strengthen the alignment of the front neocortex, as well as increase the ability to channel and visualize memories that have been stored in the rear cortex of the brain. This is also where emotional regulation comes from. Having experienced something allows you to emotionally, right, project something that's different. Whereas if you don't have connection to your emotional experiences or your self-reflection, you're always going to feel like you're doing things for the first time and you don't know what you're doing. Whereas if you take the time and you align these patterns of flowing in, the patterns of experience, and the pattern of projection, then that's when you experience clarity. So just by practicing meditation every day and allowing the blood flow, right, in your upper brain, which is controlled by the heart's contentment, and the blood flow coming from the lower portion of the brain, which is regulated by the medulla oblongata, which is based on emotion. The more relaxed you are, the more blood flow that medulla is going to let flow into your inner brain. The faster those vortices swirl, the more lightning discharge, the faster your brain restructures itself in the image of harmony of the universe. So that, in 6 minutes and 15 seconds, was the best explanation of the imagination, how to expand the imagination and the fundamental mechanisms of the brain so that you can optimize that. Start learning about your brain health, start learning about maximizing your blood, watch the videos to maximize your electrical content with your electrolytes, turmeric lemonade. There's all sorts of stuff that you can be doing to maximize your internal harmonies. One of the things that you can do, the number one thing that you can do, absolutely no more fluoride of any kind. Sodium fluoride is highly toxic. It takes less sodium fluoride to kill a human being than it does heroin. And the worst part is sodium fluoride, a crystals crystallize in the slowest moving parts of the body, which, surprise, surprise, happens to be in the pineal gland. If you look at the body or the brain of a person who has been using fluoride for a long period of time, you'll find that the ocular nerve is actually in a state of calcified decay, and the lens will actually appear to have an intense form of glaucoma or misshaping that happens from the death of the ocular nerve. Now, it could be a total coincidence that Alcoa Inc., the largest manufacturer of aluminum and also the largest supplier of aluminum to the Nazi Party, happened to be the ones that lobbied and petitioned to have this kind of toxic element introduced into the water. And it could be a coincidence that the United States government at the same time declared 50 years of secrecy, and it could be a coincidence that they discovered singularities and electromagnetic field theories from the works of Nikola Tesla and Einstein, and it could be a coincidence that they have completely decimated the educational system and that 95% of all the people in the United States with PhDs are coming from outside of the United States because the United States educational systems are garbage. It could be a coincidence that trillions of dollars have been embezzled in order to understand the works of Einstein and Nikola Tesla. It could be a coincidence that they blew up the World Trade Centers the very day after the Donald Rumsfeld, who is the National Security Advisor, happened to say we have trillions of dollars in money going missing every single year, and the CIA and the NSA are the biggest culprits, and they've been doing it for decades. I want to get transparency immediately. The 50 years of secrecy is up. Well, now all the trade records are gone. We're in a continuous war with a faceless enemy chasing after who knows what, when we could actually be looking inwards, focusing on our imaginations, and stepping away from this idiocy. That's my plan. Create a change, create an organization that allows people to harness their minds, make them sharp and clear and powerful like a lens, and make their hearts powerfully bright like a sun, right? A sun and a lens to burn through any problem, and a body that's in such intense alignment, that it won't fall apart, right? Something that is like a diamond. It's meant to channel heat and light intensely under extreme pressure. That's what this whole thing is about. That's what your imagination is for. It turns you into a diamond. You go from a snowflake that can't survive in hell to a diamond made for it. Because when you can channel your imagination, anything, any problem, whoops, you can magnify it, just like a magnifying lens. And then you can look at every single detail down to the very smallest things in the universe, such as atoms, which is just another universe, a whole other dimension of possibility. Or you can focus it so tightly that you can burn through any darkness. Light literally manifested in extreme luminosity and intensity, and that is the power of the human imagination. That is the power of the realized human being, and that is, maybe it's a coincidence that they've suppressed all this knowledge. Maybe it's a coincidence that they didn't educate slaves, but I doubt it.